Back with another video from Friday Night Food Time. This week it's going to be an ISO run by me. We have Josh in Colorado, so he won't be joining us this week, but we still got a lot of good basketball to talk about. Let's start off with the Cavs beating the Thunder, which was kind of the cliffhanger question on our last episode, which was how do the Cavs, even though they're the one seed, how do they become true contenders in the eyes of the NBA fans? And they beat the Thunder 129 to 122. Donovan Mitchell doesn't have the greatest of games, shooting 3 for 16, but it's Evan Mobley coming out with honestly they're the true bigs, which is the formula to beat this Thunder team. Both bigs having 20 points and both bigs having double-digit rebounds. And Jared Allen having 6 assists, and then Evan Mobley having 7 assists. Just doing both bigs doing all facets of the game on both sides was really impressive. Darius Garland was a steady point guard that game, 18 points and 7 assists, and then gave us that 40-point game the next night against the Raptors to just project himself into the All-Star conversation. I think just this Cavs team, they have the real talk of getting 3 All-Stars with Mobley, Mitchell, and Garland. I think that they've finally done it for me. I would not say they're anywhere near the favorites. In fact, it's kind of honestly switched for me for that because of the Celtics kind of down hump right now. They kind of just really fully committed to this bad shooting performance. In the year 2025, they have not been shooting the ball that great, and they've kind of been letting the three kill them in a lot of games. And with Porzingis coming back, it's not like you have a player that's not getting points in another facet. Porzingis is adding to the problem of just your centers now shooting more threes than because Kada was never shooting them, or Cornette's never shooting them, and then Horford never shoots them at a high clip. Now you're having another star player shooting them at a high clip and not shooting the greatest. Really hurts your team right now. So my favorite right now is the Thunder, even though they did lose to the Cavs. However, the Cavs beating the Thunder then pushed them into contending status finally for me. So very complicated in that regards, kind of a triangle of relationships there. But I do think that in the playoffs, if the Cavs and Celtics were to play each other, then the Celtics would walk away still victorious. I think they are still the champion, the reigning champion, and they had to be beaten in a 7 games until I'm proven otherwise. Similar to how the Nuggets were last year. I couldn't really see them getting beat until we finally saw them get beat by the wall of Gobert and Towns. And then speaking of Towns, moving on to the Knicks, I think the marriage of just new Towns and him being there has been great for them and has really propelled them into being a better team. However, I still think they're a step behind on that contention thing. I think that we can't put them in the same world as the Cavs this year because the Cavs have just been playing amazing basketball, and the Bucks have been too slow at the beginning of the year. That I think they still are better than the Bucks. So they kind of are in this weird position, but you have the game where they get blown out by Aaron Wiggins just shooting them up, and then they have Isaiah Joe the next game they play the Thunder having 8 threes. So when you're playing these real contending teams, and I hate to bring it up again, but the first game of the year was the massacre of the threes from the Celtics. So when you're finally playing these contention games, they have not been going in your favor, and you just have been looking a little bit outmanned and outgunned in a lot of them. And it's just kind of just more of a meshing thing. I think we haven't really seen like the full tuition of the wing defenders truly be this clamp, like unguardable force for them. I think that their shooting splits have been bad as well. I mean, McCover I think he shot 0 for something in the in his most previous game. That was not that against the Thunder. Yes, he shot a astounding an 0 for 9 and 0 for 7 from 3. You just can't have that from your wing players that are supposed to be these lockdown players. Again, OG Anunoby shooting 2 for 8 and 0 for 5 from 3. You're just never going to win games as the Knicks like that. And you sure as hell can't win games against like that against the Celtics, because the Celtics are going to get them up there. And even if they're not falling at a consistent clip, you shooting 0% from three, from having two starters from shooting 0% from three, is just not going to cut it. And I just feel like their defense from those two wings has not been what I thought it was going to be, because in essence they've been an impactful defenders that has almost been, I wouldn't say to the degree of Mikal Bridges, but OG Anunoby has had some Kawhi-esque type defensive prowess in the league, and matching that up with that 1 year where they were both on the same team was insane. So you kind of thought that you were going to get this, but like they don't look like they don't. I feel like any other wing in the wing tandem in the NBA is like they're not that far from them. And when they're shooting this bad, then they really just it's a really bad sore thumb for them. And with the Knicks not going deeper into their bench at all, you just have these guys stay out there for way too long when they're cold on their nights. It's just bad play in my opinion, which is why I don't think this team's completely ready yet. Which is fine. I think the Cavs were in a similar situation last year. The lights were too bright, so I don't want this to be a bad thing for the Knicks, because this team definitely will make the playoffs, and it will have entertaining playoffs series. But I would not be surprised if they don't go deep into the playoffs. Cause a lot of the teams just have been picking it up and have been better. One of those teams that has been picking it up, going over to the Western Conference, is the Kings, who are 6-1 with Doug Christie on a 6-game winning streak with Coach Doug Christie. Their most impressive win coming the other night, where they beat the Celtics 114-97 without De'Aaron Fox. Domantas Sabonis put up a 23 and 28 rebound game, absolutely dominating the glass. And DeMar DeRozan having a very good stretch of games the past couple games, and Malik Monk also catching a good stride. They're looking like that fast, fun-paced team from 2 years ago, which is good. I like to see that a lot more. I like to see that Keon Ellis has also been starting in this Doug Christie era and run. Even though he had only 6 points in 23 minutes, you can feel the impact of him. He gave you also 3 steals, so he's there for the defensive impact, and that's just kind of this team that had a bunch of offense. It's very rare in a case where the team doesn't need an offensive punch; it needs a defensive punch to really just ignite this team back into playing good basketball. And I think it's great that the Kings have been able to somewhat salvage their season this year. I don't see this really moving their ceiling that much, but it is nice to see that the firing of the coach, I guess, was necessary for this team to get some clear mind. And I think it also proves that Mike Brown did not have the locker room anymore, because these guys have been playing a different brand and a different, not just different brand of basketball, but of more enthusiasm, as is seen. Before I messed up, jump into this Kings game. The reason for this jersey this week is for Derrick Rose, and for his day and his announcement of his jersey being retired next year. And just on 1/4/25, that's his day, wearing his 25 high school jersey, and they beat the Knicks, which is just another bad loss. I know it's a very impactful night, but you're losing to the Bulls. It's just, you can't have those losses with a team that's kind of also playing 500. So there's a bunch of bad losses for the Knicks this week, and for the Bulls, it's just been a really good night. I really like the basketball that Lonzo Ball has been playing. He's caught a little bit of dunks, so that worry of his injury affecting him is kind of completely went to the back of the mind of Bulls fans, and I think their basketball has just probably been the most exciting since the Lonzo era again. I've really been enjoying the play from Josh Giddey. I think he's been a real steady point guard for them, having some all-around good games. But I think it's just still waiting time for this team to finally kind of push in all the chips, like kind of how the the Nets did with trading their pieces. I'm waiting for this Vucevic trade. I'm waiting for this Zach LaVine trade more than I'm honestly waiting for the Jimmy Butler trade. I think that Jimmy Butler trade is kind of just dead in the water, and it's just a lot of talk, and just he talks about these destinations that I don't even know how they're theoretically possible it's him for even to get there. So I think a player like Zach LaVine, you can definitely get for not a price of gutting your team. And for the teams that are looking for bigs, Vucevic is definitely a big that can help one of these teams that need bigs. But now let's just look at just the standings of how the league has been shaping up. Like I said, you have the Cavs at 1. You have the Boston Celtics, who have been 5-5 in their last 10. Like I said, losing a little bit of trust in the favorites of the league. I can definitely see them being in the finals. I would be shocked if they're not in the conference finals. But right now, I would say that the OKC Thunder are my favorites right now. Then you have the Bucks, who are at the 4 seed, who have been picking it up, like I said, and then Orlando Magic, who have had Paolo Banchero come back for them, and he was passing the ball, but he was definitely trying to get his shot off, wasn't falling, so he definitely went back to his playmaking a little bit, but then later in some of the later games, he has been finding his shot again, so it's really nice to see that they have one of their star A guys again, and that he can really. For them to be in the 5th seed, I think there's no way that I thought that they would be in that type of situation when he would return, especially even when Franz went down. Then you have Indiana, who has also been playing some of the best basketball that they have been playing in some time. I saw a stat on Tyrese Halliburton I had here, and it was. The Pacers in 2025, they have had 177 minutes led, and they have had 6 minutes trailing in their 4-0 start of the 2025 season. They've played I think they played a game before that after that stat came out, but so their impressive start has been really nice and refreshing for them for them to just rejuvenate their season as well, because they were looking at down in the dumps. But for them to just be at the 6th seed, and then it's kind of flipping heads, because you have teams like I know I'm jumping a lot of spaces here, but the Hawks have been really dropped down in play. You had that one crazy game winner from Trae Young that really just saved that win there against, I think that was the Jazz. But other than that, it's kind of just been tough. They're 5-5 as well in their last 10, and they don't have that. They're not closing out games as nicely as they were at the beginning of the season, and they're not starting games as nicely as they were at the beginning of the season. I think that team has definitely lost a lot of their push or their power this year. And I think that could be a team that we could write off dead later in the year if they don't figure it out, because this is kind of the big turning point. We're talking about a lot of teams that are flipping the switch right now, like the Kings, like the Pacers, and then I'm going to talk about this Detroit Pistons team next, where you have had Jaden Ivey go down, but then the Malik Beasley adding the shooting of him into the lineup has been a blessing in disguise for this team. Cade Cunningham is putting up amazing performances. Looks like the clear all-star guard on the bad team that's going to be making the all-star year. I think where it's just nice that an 8th seed Pistons, where it's just so much different than the vibe of the 13th seed Hornets, and that's nice to finally say that they finally kind of separated themselves, because it felt like the worst teams in the East were the Nets, Wizards, Hornets, and Pistons, and the Pistons have finally crawled themselves out of horrible basketball. Now the horrible basketball is being played by the Raptors, Wizards, and Nets and Hornets, and it's honestly been fine. The only team that really doesn't want to be in there is the 76ers, who sit at the 11th seed, who I think I'm riding off this season just entirely now. With the Knicks, I think you're going to get a fun playoffs with them, but I don't even want in a world, from my perspective, I don't a playoff series where Joel Embiid plays 50% of the playoff series does not entertain me at all in any of the aspects. I wouldn't even go into the playoffs if I wouldn't have Joel Embiid at 100% this year. I think it's just a recipe for disaster. You've had Jared McCain go down, now being finally reported for. I knew it was going to be reported for a season-long injury, but it finally got reported as a season-long ending injury, and so it just doesn't look like this season is turning right for you. And sometimes what we've seen with a lot of these championship runs, you have to have injury luck. So having the injury luck go the opposite and having unlucky injury, so it's just bad. That can also happen. It can also just shoot your foot off, and the season's kind of a wasted one. And it's kind of sad to see that they can't make more strides with Paul George, because a lot of this is falling on Paul George, and it's this team could be. We're talking about teams that are super surprising, that are in the top seeds. We're talking about the Magic. We're talking about the Pacers were playing horrible. They're still a 6 seed. The Pistons have jumped up to 8, and the 76ers still have never been able to find footing to even crack this into this play-in area. And you thought that Paul George would allow that, and for a team that for right now has Tobias Harris, and I hate to say that, but Tobias Harris and Paul George are not putting up that much far different of stats, and the production has been just not that much different. And you thought it was going to be. You thought that Paul George could take over a lot of these games. And it's looking bad. You're looking at Yabusele, who's probably not going to come back because he's outplayed his contract. You've had random spot-up games from Caleb Martin. But just really the boost I thought that you were going to get from the Christmas break has not been there. They are 6-4 in their last 10, but it's you almost have to play to a perfect brand of basketball, which you can't. You literally can't do when Joel Embiid is not going to be playing 50% of the games already, and it's just been bad for them. So I've completely wrote them off of even just playoff contention. I could see them being in the playoffs and they getting swept from one of these teams, or in the play-in. If you have a bad night from Joel Embiid, or Joel Embiid, because this team has the potential to be the 9 or 10 seed in the East if they were to make the play-in, that would mean you would have to win 2 play-in games. And if the way that lines up, Joel Embiid could not play for one, and that one could be the one that you lose. I mean, that's just how the play-in is. And I have no faith in this team for them to crawl back out of the play-in and then beat a high seed. This team does not have the dog that a Miami Heat team did in that year. Going over to the West, OKC, like I said, has been taking over my favorite. You had Amen Thompson, who was suspended for a little bit. Or I'm sorry, I get the Thompson brothers' names mixed up. It was Amen Thompson who was suspended for that fight with Tyler Hero for a little bit, but he's been back, and they have been on their 3-game winning streak with their 7 of 3 in their last 10, and they have just been playing amazing basketball. I cannot believe this team has climbed this way to the 2 seed. I thought this team was definitely going to be the young team that takes the stride up, but I could not believe you. Yeah, I would not tell you that you were right if you told me the Rockets could be a top 3 seed. Then you have the Grizzlies. Ja came back. Jaren Jackson Jr. has been holding down the Grizzlies. Amazing. I think he is probably going to be a starter for the All-Star break. I mean, he has been amazing on the defensive end and on the offensive end for the Grizzlies, and I think he's been one of the most underrated stars of this year. So just how the West is shaping up, it kind of seems that a lot of those teams that were steady have kept steady, and the teams that were hot have kind of also cooled down. So the steadiness has taken over this NBA season rather than the hot and cold starts that some of these teams have. That if you just have a consistent, steady diet of games, then you're going to be pretty good in the standings. Because looking at the Dallas Mavericks, who were at the top 3 seed at one point, who started off real hot and now have cooled down because Kyrie Irving and Luka have missed some games here, and they're 4-6 in their last 10. And that's a team that I think they're going to be perfect for playoffs. So I think it's also a blessing in disguise that they're dropping this far, because you would not want to see them in the playoffs, and it would be a bad reward for a high seeded team to end up playing a Mavericks down there. Whereas the teams that I know I was talking a lot about the Spurs and how they would be one of the most dangerous teams in the play-in, have now played themselves out of the play-in, unfortunately losing on their last three in a row. And I don't know what happened with them. I think the Victor Wembanyama stuff he cooled down. He had a pretty bad game against the Bucks game, but it was entertaining as hell. They kind of just cooled down with their competitiveness. I don't know why, really, but they have not been able to close out games like they were. And then the Phoenix Suns have completely dropped. I mean, they've benched Bradley Beal and Yusuf Nurkic, and that has been a little bit better for their production of their team. But still, this team has shot themselves in the foot, dropping all the way down to the 12th seed. And I see this team having a very strong time finding a footing in the West, because it is the West. And when I have these teams above the Spurs, like the Warriors, Kings, Clippers, and Wolves, I don't believe in any of those 4 teams, but I believe in them all more than the Suns, and I believe in the Spurs more than all of those teams that I just said. So I think it's a bad season for the Suns, and they really just need to figure out how to put surrounding pieces around, but maybe this Jimmy Butler thing can be a blessing in disguise, because it seems that is the only place that wants Bradley Beal at this time, and Bradley Beal has the no trade clause, so he can choose where or where not to go, and he seems fine with Miami, because that's a place that he wanted to go before he went to the Suns. So I think that is an opportunity you need to jump on, because I know the Jimmy Butler thing might not be a perfect fit, but at least it'll be a situation to get you out of this Bradley Beal problem. And I think there's a reason that the Wizards... I mean, there's a reason that we all thought the Wizards really screwed up with the Bradley Beal thing. It was just that the Suns had more talent around Bradley Beal that maybe it could work out, and it can't. The Bradley Beal extent has been horrible with the Suns, and it's been probably my least favorite Kevin Durant watch of his entire career. I love when he was killing with the Nets. That probably was one of my most favorite, because it was kind of just like I got to appreciate that the most, because he was more I don't know. It's bad terms of old headedness, but it just felt like he was more old and like decisive in his like scoring. And then it's hard to root for him when he was on the Warriors and stuff. But I feel like he was really sound as a scorer with the Nets, and he didn't have to do all this stuff. But he's having to play help big as the power forward with the Suns, and it's just not where I would want Kevin Durant at this age at this stage in his career to be exhausting all that energy on the defensive end. I want him to be a premier scorer. And one of those players that also wants to be a premier scorer that has had some trouble is the Minnesota Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards, who talked about how his least favorite thing has been double teams, and unlike the Devin Booker type stuff where he said he didn't want to be double teamed in an open gym, this more kind of sounds like I don't want to pass, and. Anthony Edwards is a very outspoken player and has been outspoken in the past when they recently got Rudy Gobert, and he said he felt like the spacing wasn't there. So it seems somewhat similar to like that, because you have Julius Randle, and that's definitely not making the spacing better. It's not as good as when Towns was there. And I think it's really sad to see this because you had this almost star-studded like campaign for Anthony Edwards last year. Just every, I mean, and now it just seems that that person is a quieter Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and that needs to be the person that we need to be focusing on making the face of the NBA, because Shea Alexander has been amazing offensively and defensively, putting up 30 balls just on an insanely consistent rate, and just closing out games as the number one guy, where Anthony Edwards has had trouble finding it, and it's finally kind of felt like Anthony Edwards kind of fell in love with the three this year. He caught that nasty body on Anthony Black the other night, but it just seems that he doesn't have that same like intensive scoring that made him so elite in that last year. And I think that's just a thing with the team. I mean, he doesn't have the spacing, he doesn't have the playmaking anymore, because I feel like Mike Conley has also kind of reached his end. And I mean, the drop off of Mike Conley from this year and last year is insane. I mean, I think he's also I mean, Anthony Edwards, we're talking about a star player having trouble with the construction of this team. Think about a role playing point guard. Like, this is Mike Conley he was around with the two bigs playing with a true power forward and two center, and he's also having trouble with just, I think it's just an age thing as well, just with this team. And I don't really know where you would go with this team, and it's kind of frustrating that Rob Dillingham is not getting any minutes because it seems that your point guard's kind of toast at this point, and it's just very confusing for this team. And they've kind of built themselves into like one of the most confusing teams, where like the Bulls, I didn't really know what they were doing, and I'm kind of glad that the Bulls have held on to all their chips, because they're not a horrible watch anymore. But now the Timberwolves have kind of entered that, like, I have no idea what this team really wants. I guess it's saving money, but it's a horrible watch, it's a horrible product, and I wonder how they get past this Julius Randle era, and I think that might tell me a little bit more with this team. But as of right now, I'm really stuck with this Timberwolves team and how you would move on from here. But yeah, so I'll take a break, and I will see you guys after the break.